Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sierra Hit. I'm a seven-figure Etsy shop optimization specialist, business analyst, and consultant who has had the privilege of scaling 200 plus Etsy shops with some to seven figures. All my links are down below if you'd like to check me out, get my portfolio, testimonials, case studies, all that good stuff. Here trying to bring this very niche expertise to YouTube that I've been able to garner by staring at Etsy for 30 plus hours pretty much each week. And I've been doing this since 2019. So again, I've worked on a vast variety of niches. I've served a vast variety of target customers, been in multiple industries. So it's just been a very, very educational journey. And I'm new here on YouTube, but I am trying to just like it bring some of that very niche expertise that I've been able to garner in such a unique role. And I do have a background in business analytics. So I've been able to bring the unique tests, analyses, and approaches from that background into e-commerce optimization specific to Etsy. So I'm happy to have you here. If you're watching this video, clearly you are trying to learn how to take, or rather create, irresistible product photos on Etsy. And that is what I'm going to be showing you how to do in this video. So we have this Google Drive here, and this is the product that we're going to be working on. It is a storage solution box that is a validated product idea, by the way. So we're not springing this product to Etsy on a whim. There was some extensive market research analyses that went into this process, including keyword research analyses, as well as competitor analyses, and then like some SWOT tests in terms of assessing competitors' strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to bring this item to the market competitively. I break this entire process down into Etsy Success Starter Kit that is linked in the description down below. But it really walks through how to make sure you never bring a product to Etsy that is not going to have validated demand. So this product, again, we bring it to Etsy for a very specific reason. It is a storage solution box. And I want to go ahead and offer the insight that this is a bit of an audit as well, because this listing was first brought to Etsy showcasing, it was showing this, it was showing this cover photo. So you can probably naturally understand why this one maybe would not work for a storage solution box. It's beautiful. The product presentation is amazing. Very aesthetic. It's perfect for Etsy's target customer. But if it's a storage solution, we need to showcase the inside of the box, and we also need to showcase our target customers' greatest competitive advantage of that personalization. So we want to showcase all of that on one cover photo while making sure the fact that there are storage components inside and that there are actual solutions for essentially documenting your baby's milestones and journey is very clearly search facing. I have another video up that talks about the number one problem with Etsy shops and why your listings are not selling. And that is the cover photos not aligning with your target customer's greatest pain points and competitive advantages, and presenting the product in an aesthetic manner that aligns with their validated aesthetic preferences. There are plenty of bestsellers on Etsy that can kind of give you an idea of what is actually going to sell well. And this product presentation was somewhat created kind of mimic some of the bestsellers in terms of very rustic, or not very rustic, but a bit rustic, a bit like minimalistic, but also just the whole presentation is it's quite aesthetic. You can see that here. So I'm going to break down how to make these listing photos even better. So first things first is we're going to use one of these photos that showcases the inside of the box. So all of these definitely can have a room within the listing images. I'll say that, but we're going to focus on the listing cover photo because that is the advertisement for the listing. So this is a strong one, and that's probably the strongest one. There's something about that slight diagonal angle for boxes and even other like premium products that customers kind of just love on Etsy. You can do this one as well, very similar, but also quite strong. And then we also want like the photo of the cover of the box. So the fact that it's also ribbon wrapped is another competitive advantage. And we've done some extensive research into our target customers right within Etsy. Again, the Etsy Success Starter Kit down below, it breaks down how to approach that customer reviews analysis and let that guide the value propositions that you communicate about your listings from search. So that's both visually and textually. I'll be showing how to add those text overlays as well in an aesthetic manner. Notice aesthetic is the name of the game. We don't want to do anything that's not going to draw customers' eyes to your products on Etsy. Etsy's not the place to be bringing products to the platform with white backgrounds. It's just not. So I want to go ahead and get that out of the way. So we have those images downloaded to the computer, and I'm going to go into canva.com. There are a couple of different routes here. So if you don't have an aesthetic background to your photo, you can also use photoroom.com. And photoroom.com, it lets you swap in artificial backgrounds into your photos. Now, these photos are quite aesthetic. I will say that for the most part. But let's say we want to kind of target slightly different target customers. Like we know we have a slight range of different kind of micro target customers that are segments that are kind of searching for this product. So although I could go straight into Canva and kind of work with the images that we have, let's assume that the product presentation isn't that aesthetic. So I'm going to go ahead and start from a photo here on photoroom.com. I do have a premium subscription. Time of recording, I believe it's only like $9.99 a month, and they might have a free trial. Now, I want to mention that both of the diagonal photos that I pulled are very strong, but I actually went with the image that offer a little bit more space around the product. And that gives us enough room to add in some of that text, different kind of communications about the customization and personalization, as well as some of those slightly other angles of the product, which we are going to do to fully communicate the value of this product. And I'm a big fan of split tests, A/B tests. So I normally will create a couple of different versions of each cover photo to see which resonates best with the market. And that's honestly what you should do as well. I'm going to go ahead and resize this image, and I'm going to put it to 3000 x 3000 pixels. That is the standard size for Etsy listing images. I'm going to I think I am going to just slightly resize this so that we have a little bit more space around the product. And I'm going to just kind of center that. And we do kind of notice that part of that tree or leaf thing is kind of cutting into the product. So that is something we're going to kind of see how Photoroom does with the AI background. Because oftentimes it'll actually put a little part into the background that would kind of justify that leaf being there. So we're just going to click on the background, and we're going to click on change background, AI backgrounds, and then we're going to want to create a background. So there are lots of different ways you could approach creating a background. So I'm pretty much actually, I'm not used to the first image. Sometimes they'll give you suggested images. Normally they're not great, but that first one actually is kind of nice. I think it gives you an idea of the power of this. And just like that, we kind of see how they have added this piece into the background that justifies that leaf being on top of the box. And now it all looks very seamless. So honestly, this image is pretty aesthetic. And normally I will say the AI backgrounds are not this great. I do have different hats in terms of using this tool to literally make your listing images look very, very similar to validated bestsellers already on Etsy. But I won't be touching on that in this video. We're going to keep it but I am touching on that in my Etsy transformation course that is currently on presale. Down below if you're interested in joining this initial presale cohort. So I'm going to change manual. So I just clicked on custom background again, and I want to change it to manual create a background instead of using the images that they just provided for us. So they already know that it's an open wooden box. So we're going to make it a bit more aesthetic. I'm just going to kind of pull it out. You kind of want to make this mimic some of your top bestsellers. So I'm going to say, and you can even let AI generate a prompt for you, assuming you do all your market research and you've deep dived into your competitor analysis and your customer reviews analysis to understand typically, their aesthetic preferences and what draws them to a product's search-facing perspective, which typically mostly is that listing cover photo. You can let those insights essentially craft the creation of a prompt here. And that's kind of, if you just, like I said, ChatGPT Pro is pretty good at crafting prompts. But we're just going to go ahead, and since we're assuming we really haven't done any market research, we're just kind of mimicking what just the product creation process would look like. We're going to say an open wooden box, and we can say on a wood surface with beautiful decor. We can even say white petals. This is so just kind of pulling this stuff out there. White petals, boho elements, and we're gonna say bright natural lighting. And we might, sometimes you can stay in a nursery or in a baby room or something to make it especially relevant. But I'm just going to see what it does. So I just click on generate. Some of these images look quite promising. This one is almost good. The only thing about sometimes is their backgrounds look just a little bit strange. You don't quite know what's up, but something is up. It's you almost don't quite know what's going on. This one up here, it looks good, but I'm just a little bit confused about what that is going on in the slight background. When you add different overlays and whatnot, oftentimes some of the stuff will be kind of blocked off anyway. So I wouldn't worry too much. Customers are not typically micro-analyzing your photos. So let's say this one honestly looks pretty good. We can download this. You can download as many of them as you want. And typically I do download multiples to see kind of which look like the best final products. And it's great to have multiples for when you are setting up those split tests. And split tests on Etsy are essentially you just duplicating a listing. A true split test, you only change one factor about it. So in this case, it would maybe just be that covered photo. And then you essentially launch listings at the same time. And if you're running ads, you start up ads at the same time on both listings. And that keeps everything, very uniform. So that you've only changed that one factor and you know which is driving the most clicks and sales. But I will say Etsy ads honestly makes it kind of easy to know what is resonating with your customers because you can order all your listings by click rate descending. Happy to make another video about how to deeply dive into your analytics. Also part of my Etsy success starter kit down below. But yeah, I'm happy to kind of walk you guys through how to use your internal data to actually guide listing images that you create as well. But definitely kind of letting your click rate guide that. If you have internal data, it's just a really, really strong. And then, so pretty much at this point, you can kind of get a feel for what else they do. You can craft any kind of background that you want. I honestly kind of liked those first ones that they had given us. So I think I'm just going to go with the two that I had downloaded. Sometimes you have to kind of clean it up, make it a little bit more minimalistic. That typically will help with keeping the product as the focal point of the image. And sometimes these images can be a bit too busy. So it's kind of your job to feed in a prompt that's minimalistic enough. So now I'm going to go into canva.com. Now that we've downloaded these images, I'm just go ahead and close out a photo room. I'm going to upload those images. So I already have a Canva template for this shop. And I will say that these images are quite text heavy. I can't acknowledge that. But they're all part of these initial split tests that we are setting up. So for the new ones that I'm creating, it's going to be a bit less text. So you can kind of get a feel for what some of these different split tests are looking like to kind of see what drives the most clicks. And I can kind of start with that as a basis if I wanted to. I am definitely going to keep these fonts consistent. I did some research. I know that like we kind of like this aesthetic of like the dashed lines and different stuff like that. I have this circle overlay here. So we're going to create an image that essentially is going to kind of mimic that, but have less text and be a bit more aesthetic. So we're going to go ahead and put that cover photo on here. And so we have the view. We have two different views that I kind of want it to be cover photos. So honestly, we kind of have three. Like, honestly, I think three of these are kind of strong. So we kind of just see one of them is a bit smaller. It gives a bit more room for like the text. We could honestly use all of these. And again, I want to keep that text, those different fonts consistent. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that font. This font is now in canva.com. I do have the Canva Pro subscription and I do recommend it. But it's only, I think it's about $9.99 a month as well. Unless you go with one of their more premium plans, which I believe it's like $14 a month. They definitely have a 30-day free trial. And I honestly think they're more than worth it for Etsy shop owners. Very intuitive learning curve. So I just went ahead and put that there. And we kind of are trying to we're trying to make her unique selling propositions, which includes handcrafted in the USA, ships fast, heirloom quality. We're trying to make all of those more search facing, and her premium craftsmanship, small batch, artisan crafted, sustainable. We're trying to make all those things more search facing because more and more as we move towards a market that's dominated by like overseas products and things are just kind of changing. We want to make sure that those USPs, being the unique selling propositions, are search facing. They're things that customers can see from search. So this text was all validated by the market as their preferences and their purchasing intents even. So you can communicate all of that from search. So I like to use text, and I like to also add in a view of at least one of the other views. At this point, she also offers the option of personalization of the top of this box, like inside, which is honestly a huge competitive advantage as well. So I just went ahead and I searched circle frame and elements on Canva. I'm just going to add that circle frame. And I'll try adding another one. We may well end up going with just the one. We don't want it to start looking like a collage. We just want it so like there's an overlay. So I'm going to go ahead and upload the view of the top of the box so customers can see that personalization. And then I also had a view of that inner message. So we see that there's an inner message in this box that customers can personalize as well. I'm going to add that over here and I'm going to put that in that overlay. And then I like to use lots and lots of depth. I will say depth goes a long way on Etsy, different shadows, 3D elements, as well as like neutrals. So I would definitely say to play around with neutrals and play around with depth. as much as you can. When I say neutrals, I mean like neutral tones. It just kind of helps with a slightly more premium positioning, and it makes for very aesthetic photos. And to put the shadows, I just searched shadow element. I'm gonna put those behind those circle frames, put them to back and then forward. And so I'm probably gonna actually Command C or Control C, then Command V or Control V to copy and paste. And I'm gonna put those because I just want the shadow to be a bit stronger than it was. And at this point, you can kind of play it by face value. You can decide, do I want to deepen the shadow even more? We can see what it would look like if we copied it one more time. So it's quite strong at that point. We can move it over a bit to maybe make it look a little bit more realistically positioned. Try to make shadows like all show up the same direction if you can. If you're putting them, we have it kind of like a drop shadow to our right bottom here, and that just can help with slightly more aesthetic presentation. So we have the top of the box here. We always want to make sure that views are large enough from search. So I'm going to move the shadow over a little bit more. Still want it to definitely have a lot of dimension, but not look messy or overcrowded. Put that there, and we can add that other view. We could like experiment with it. We might want to put it, if there was more white space, we could put it within some more of that white space. So we can put it, I don't want it to overcrowd the inside of the box, so we could try it right there. And these are, again, their views. This is our way of visually and textually communicating our product's value propositions. So with this one, we have the view of both, and we might want to even add a little bit more depth because this is over like a darker area, and that adds a little bit more depth. And then on the other images, typically I go with just the one circle overlay if I can, but we can try showing a view of like both on the other cover photos. So on this one, we just do one circle overlay of inside the box, and then on the other one, we do another circle overlay of the top of the box. And we want these to be big enough to be viewed from search, so customers know exactly what they're looking at. We see it's very aesthetic so far. These ones, especially when it's just the one circle overlay, can look very, very aesthetic. And so at that point, we want to use the text, and we're going to say handmade in the USA. We're going to say ships fast. Limited stock is the scarcity tactic that we're going to be using. And then you could even say, if you do limited edition, typically with text, you want to try to communicate the most amount of value and the least amount of text. So we're going to do 100% handmade in USA, which does also kind of tackle small batch, artisan crafted, handmade, and then we're communicating made in the USA. And then high quality premium craftsmanship tends to be something you can kind of communicate with your listing images, especially when we go through that the next step after this, which is enhancing like the texture, contrast, clarity. So at this point, it's kind of about figuring out where to place that text aesthetically. The only other thing we would maybe want to communicate would be the fact that this is all sustainable, like sustainable products. And you can also use icons. You can use like a leaf. You can find an eco-friendly kind of badge, but you always just want to make sure everything looks very, very uniform. Typically, you don't want like an icon that is super jarring, super colorful. This one is not horrible. This one would probably be one that you would be just a little bit too much color. And then you have to kind of change the color to make sure it's readable from search anyway. Typically kind of keeping it pretty minimalistic is a good route, like black and white or just all black icons. And this one isn't the best icon, but just kind of give you a feel. It keeps everything looking very minimalistic, doesn't overcrowd the photo, and then you can still supplement an icon by putting a bit of text next to it. So we said ships fast. Sometimes it's worth saying like, ships in 1 day, asterisk, and then put an asterisk at the bottom with rush order fee upgrade. And that would essentially let customers know that they can't upgrade their order to ship same day. And that's one tactic we do use for this shop. Towards the beginning of the description, we also include a link for a rush order fee, so customers could kind of skip that line. So I always say to let your visuals do the talking, and whatever kind of options that you offer them that align with their validated competitive advantages and or pain points, you want to ensure that you are communicating that within the listing images, because you always know that they're typically looking through the listing images, even though they might not be reading through the description. So let them even know within your images what is being offered in the description. Walk them through the personalization, walk them through the variations, and let them know exactly how to place their order and what that process looks like, especially if they maybe have to send you like images post-purchase, send you any preferences, like you need to kind of walk them through that process. And actually, as you can probably tell, this video could get quite long if I did images that fully showed like walking through the process. In this video, we're actually just focusing mostly on this cover photo because it is the most important, and it's going to keep this video reasonably short, but I'm happy to create other videos that walk through how to create some more of those listing images. At this point, it's a matter of figuring out where to place this text. This text aesthetically will definitely have an easier time on the images that just have like the one circle overlay. And I like to normally add an effect, and I like to do background. I like to change that to white, and I like to lower the transparency a bit. Keep it aesthetic, keep it really readable, figure out like that sweet spot. And that normally keeps things looking pretty clean. I went ahead and moved the text over a spot with a bit more white space so the background is very light. If we are using black text, for using white text, then you want the background to be darker. So I'm going to kind of split up some of this text, and I am going to bold the parts that would matter a little bit more. So we'll say handmade, we can bold that. We can bold USA. We could try bolding ships fast to see if that is still aesthetic. And then at that point, we might want to make it a little bit smaller. And then we can add that other little bit to the bottom down here, which says limited stock. I'm actually going to try changing this text to white. I'm going to get rid of the text background here, and I'm going to put that over this dark wood, and you can like put that down here. And there's no 100% quote unquote like right way to do this, but kind of what I'm doing, this works well enough. You might want to try to increase the size of the image and the overlay just a little bit more so that customers know exactly what they're looking at. We can see what that looks like if we did increase the size a bit. We do want it to be clear that they're looking at the top of the box. So sometimes that's why actually adding in that little arrow and mentioning what customers are looking at can be the extra nudge sometimes that customers need. So if we were to add this stuff over here, we could like use the little arrow, point to the top of the box, and in this arrow, you can just grab it from searching arrow or elements. Canva has all these free elements, and you could point and say something like either personalization available or personalized with a name, exclamation point, and you could just put that at the end, and then you could just kind of point at it, and that kind of can give you an idea. Showing you the very real design process, I would actually maybe move this and rearrange the arrow so that the arrow is super, super visible. I'm going to flip it vertically, and then I'm going to still point at the name so that the arrow is only over this very bright kind of background so that customers know what they're looking at. If it's a darker background, you can change the arrow to white. So I typically go with elements in Canva where you can change the color if needed. And then we say personalize with name. I want to make sure that's super, super readable from search. So I would even bold personalize. And if you want to make the background a bit more transparent, you can do that as well. So now it's saying personalized with name. It's very aesthetic. I will say that we could increase the size just a bit since this is such something customers definitely care about. And then we have some of our other views here. We can do the same thing on these. We could even, if we wanted to just copy and paste it as is, you can kind of see what that looks like. That actually can kind of give an idea of what that actually doesn't look that bad. But I am going to get rid of that overlay of the inside so we could just stick with the overlay of the inside of the box. Move the arrow, and then we'll say personalize. Get again, this is why you start moving the arrow so that it's easy to read everything. And then I can make the arrow a little bit bigger and trust the process. I do know that some of this stuff is not super, super visible. Sometimes you have to actually go through this next step of enhancing contrast and clarity with just the image that's in the overlay so that we can make that super, super visible. And that's not hard to do, but this is just kind of let you know, like right now, this is not super easy to understand what customers are looking at, which is why we're also adding this message like personalize, or maybe add custom message inside, personalize with message. You want to make sure customers understand what they are looking at is the name of the game. I moved around the text a little bit to place it on slightly more readable areas. We have limited stock here, and I would kind of show you what it would look like to maybe play around again with dimension a bit more. I would first change the color to black, and then you can click on effects and you can click on shadow, and you can increase the blur and you can increase the transparency, leaving the shadow to the color of black. And that kind of gives you an idea of what some increased dimension could look like. You can choose to lower the blur if you would like, or just kind of set it where it maybe looks best. You can also choose to lower the transparency a bit. And that kind of can give you a feel of what it would look like if you wanted to add in a shadow. But you always just want to make sure everything is super, super readable. All in all, this is the layout I'm going to go with. I ended up kind of breaking up ships fast and this little information here so that separated limited stock at the bottom here. And I did very, very light white backgrounds. It's a bit less, it's not jarring from search. It's a very seamless white on top of what is already like kind of an off-white background. And that keeps things looking very aesthetic. And with this other one of both views, we just have to work a little bit harder to communicate what customers are looking at. So I'm going to kind of paste, I'm going to copy and paste what we did on the other ones in terms of communicating what the feature is, personalized with name, and then also grab it where it said personalized with message inside. Copy those from both of the other ones, and then I can paste that on this image. And that's why Canva is so seamless. So at this point, this honestly, it looks decently strong. So I went ahead and I moved over this text. I got rid of ships fast. We're just going to leave 100% handmade in the USA. And because this product, the visual is just a little bit more complex, I'm going to make it very clear what this product is. And I'm going to put this title at the top. So I just added a rectangle. I put some text in it. I'm going to keep all in one as it is. And I'm going to change this to storage box. And this paints this product as an all-in-one solution. We can also play around with depth a bit here, and we can click on this rectangle, and we could even move. We want to make sure we're actually clicking on the rectangle and not the text on top. And we could try to move the rectangle behind this top image and shadows. So we just click on position, and then we move that to the back and then in front of that background image. And now we can move text back on top of it. And this is just purely testing and seeing what ends up looking the best. And so at this point, we might want to make this just slightly smaller and personalize with text inside, personalize with a name. It's lots and lots of testing to figure out how to make sure everything is as clear as possible from search. I'm going to add a background to handmade in the USA to actually match. I'm going to go ahead and click on background. I'm going to match this top color here, just showing you how to grab your color dropper. You could just click on this color dropper icon and match the color. And then you can change the font. Click on this text blur icon and change it to white. And again, we can bold handmade, bold USA. And not the clearest image in the world, if I'm being honest. But it's close enough. And we're going to still be split testing this. I'm going to show you how Adobe Creative Cloud can help a lot with enhancing these photos to look a bit more professional. So at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and download these images, the last 3 images. I just click on share, and then download, and then set to PNG. And then we want to change it to just these last few pages. So I would change it to 17, 18. Sorry, y'all. I'll just change it 17 to 9. And then you click on download. What I'm doing now is I'm opening up Adobe Photoshop, and I also use Adobe Lightroom to edit photos, but I'm just going to be using Photoshop in this video. The presale transformation course, again, that's going to be touching more deeply in terms of creating all these kinds of visuals and using the different tools. But while we wait for that, I did want to show this other secondary image and to just show you the power of how a shadow can transform an image. This is one of my favorite quote unquote hacks in Canva. You have any kind of image, getting rid of that. You can just search up shadow. And you might think that that's a bit too deep. That's okay if you think the shadow is a little bit too strong. But it's just from what I've seen has worked for other shots. Adding a shadow on top can really, really help with just like immediate premium presentation. If you search up shadow and elements, you see that there are lots and lots of different options. There are like some nature-based shadows that you can use. There are window shadows. There's all that good stuff. So when you just throw a shadow on top, like this one, all of a sudden you change the entire look of the photo, and it just kind of aids with more premium positioning. You just put it on top and you just like would resize it to fit the full name. And that's one thing I think it's a really seamless hat. And then everything that's like, this image was very intentional. I will say that as well. There was work put in to add a white rectangle on top of a blurred background version of this image at the back, just to keep everything visible and very seamless. So Lots of intentionality. All right, so the image is downloaded to my computer as a zip file, and I went ahead and I unzipped them. I'm gonna go into Adobe Photoshop. I'm gonna click open, and I'm gonna click into that folder, and I'm gonna click on, let's go with this one. And what I like about Adobe Photoshop as well is that you can apply the edits to your other photos, which is one strength of Lightroom as well. It's best for mass editing your photos, but Photoshop is a bit more intricate, and I like to use it, especially for the listing cover photos. So we can, and keep in mind, this is the one that we made in Photo Room, this background. Anyways, so at this point, I'm going to click on filter at the top here, and I'm going to click on camera raw filter, ... And that's going to open up this pop-up that is going to let us enhance texture, contrast, clarity, everything. All right, so there's this pop-up here, and almost always I immediately into editing texture. Texture is one that you can always increase to give customers that in-person shopping experience. So it takes it from kind of blurry to very high texture. You can always, best judgment, staring at it, looking at top competitors, like kind of looking at what they're doing. But typically a higher texture is a pretty strong move for just increasing, again, that in-person shopping experience. And this is what I was saying, well, we might want to edit the circle overlay photos by themselves, because it might be that this photo is definitely a little darker than this one is. So it would honestly make sense to edit this photo by itself and then place it on top of the photo in Canva, and then edit this photo also by itself and then add it back into the Canva. But in this, we're just doing it all within this one listing photo. So at this point, we've increased the texture, and I like to play around with increasing clarity as well. This photo, I feel like it naturally had some clarity in it as well. So yeah, you can see clarity just increases, again, like kind of like the crispness of the photo and what like the darker parts of the photo look like in the lighter parts of the photo. So I think that was a nice level, increasing it just a bit more. Put it here on about 18. You can also choose to increase dehaze. With this photo, we did see quite a bit of kind of whiteness in it, just kind of toward like the edges. So if you increase dehaze, again, it makes the photo look a little bit more crisp. So we put dehaze on about 12 there. I'll play around with it a little bit more. And at this point, the photo is more crisp. We can look at these before and after by clicking this, toggle, and you can kind of see what it looks like already from before and after. You can choose to upload both to your shop if you want. That's kind of, again, it never hurts to split test different things, but we're going to go ahead and increase exposure as well. Exposure is like the brightness on the photo, just to make sure everything is high resolution enough. And this would be perfect for this small photo here. It's a bit much, I think, on this whole photo. So we're going to kind of find a nice middle ground. So let's put it, maybe we could do about 25. And I like to increase contrast only like a little bit. So contrast is just like the contrast lights and darks. And I'm going to actually reduce highlights a little bit. It honestly comes down to the photo. Sometimes I'll increase highlights. But if I reduce highlights, then that kind of leaves the darker parts of the photo alone. And it just makes the brighter parts look a little bit less, jarring. And then if you wanted to increase shadows, that actually makes the shadows look lighter. It could make sense for your brand image, or you might want to make the shadows darker. I think I might maybe leave the shadows as they are. And if you want it, you can try to increase white or decrease white. Either way, both ways honestly can look good. Both ways can have their perks. If you decrease white, it helps a bit, I think, with clarity. But if you increase it, it helps a little bit with like the brightness of the photo. And then we could also reduce blacks to make things a little bit more clear, actually. That's a decent move to make. And with the blacks being lowered, we could lower we could honestly maybe increase the shadows, just that would make sure it's visible. And that's about that. Sometimes you can go down to effects and you can choose to add a deep vignette, because how you say it. And it just adds a deep, nice, like circular shadow around the photo as a whole. You go the other way, adds a white shadow. I don't typically ever add a white shadow. I don't add a vignette a whole lot, but it can help with slightly more premium positioning. So if we add that vignette in there, we see that it's dimmer around the sides, and that can be helpful. Or if we get rid of it, you can see what it looks like here before and after. We don't want it to start cutting into this overlay. I do think it actually makes the text look more readable, which is good on both ends. I think I am going to add the vignette. And I think to kind of counteract how it made this part just a little bit darker, I'm going to also raise, I'm going to try to raise shadows a little bit. Look at what it would look like when you raise highlights. And this is when sometimes you might want to also edit like I didn't even mention temperature, but temperature can change a photo to look a little bit more warm, which I normally would say change it to looking a little bit more warm before you start changing it to look a little bit more cool. But if you increase temperature, it does make the photo as a whole, it's very warm. I would say to definitely use this very sparingly. Normally, like right around 5 to 10 is like the most you'll actually kind of need. Anything more than that is a bit of overkill. And that's up to you. I kind of like the photo like it is. Sometimes I'll increase vibrance or saturation depending on the market. But I think it honestly looks fine like it is. And then we could also go down to color mixer. And that's where you can start making changes to very specific colors. So with us looking at this, let's say we want it to, we just want it to change. Yeah, so if we wanted to, we could actually kind of raise, if you click on luminance under color mixer, you can kind of raise the brightness of certain colors like orange. Too much, just way too much innate for this photo. You could rise it for yellow, or you could dim it even. I don't normally dim it, but it's an option. So that can also help you get a feel for if you kind of want to bring out very few tones, like you want to bring out the blues or darken them or brighten them. If you want to bring them out, you could go into saturation and then you could increase the saturation. And if they find that color in the photo, then they're going to increase it. So with orange, so let's say I think this photo is pretty strong as it is. Only change I would make would be to this overlay photo. And I think we're going to have to edit that by itself to make it super, super visible from search. And then you click on OK, and that commits the changes. And then while the edits are still at this point, they're saved to your settings on Photoshop, like as if they were copied. And so at this point, you're going to go ahead and click on File, Open, and you're going to open up the 2 other photos that you had set, or however other mini photos that you have. I'm going to grab that one, and I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to open up them both, and you paste those edit settings. By you go to the top here, you click on Filter, and you do not click on Camera Raw Filter ... You click on this very first, you click on right where it says Camera Raw Filter at the very top, because this stuff has now been pasted. And now we click on Camera Raw Filter, we let it load, and then it pastes the same edits onto here. And then you can do it on this one as well. Now, sometimes if you have the time, you have the effort, energy, it can be best to manually edit each photo instead of applying the edits to each one, because each photo is slightly unique. And especially when it comes like shadows and contrast, you'll probably have to kind of do some manual edits. We still want this to be slightly more visible, like the text. We might want to dim some of the yellows. It's kind of whatever you want to do, but that's just kind of a way to expedite that process. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and kind of call it quits on this this process. I quite like these final photos, and these can be cover photos that we do split test. And this just pretty much walk through how to create listing cover photos for your products that are a bit more niche and competitive, and kind of will stand out from some of your top competitors. So if you made it to this point of the video, thank you so much. I hope you were able to get a lot of value out of this video. I'm happy to make other videos on creating visuals again, and even other videos on creating cover photos, especially if it would feel more relevant to your products, like digital products, even like print on demand. And I recognize that the images that I've created here are not like one size fits all, but they kind of just give you an idea of how to get in the mindset of very aesthetic, high value, communicative images on Etsy. So again, thank you so much for watching this video to the end. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to be notified of future videos. Don't forget to like the video to let me know if you want to see future content like this, and to leave a comment down below to let me know your thoughts and whether this helped you, and even drop a link to your shop. I would love to check it out. And if you're looking for a fully loaded toolkit to take your shop to the next level, definitely check out my Etsy Success Starter Kit, a complete done-for-you resource designed to save you time and help you implement the right strategies from day one. It includes an Etsy Excellence Guide, which is a comprehensive, step-by-step, it's extremely comprehensive, roadmap guide, all of that in one that covers Etsy SEO, pricing strategies, competitor analysis, market analysis, keyword analyses, even like market gap analyses, product optimization, the kinds of products you need to have in your Etsy shop, and different advanced selling techniques to increase your average order value, upsell customers, and use your variations and personalizations very strategically. It also includes 7,500 done-for-you digital products, including planners, journals, trackers, and printables, 800 plus Canva templates, which are customizable plug-and-play designs to create your own scroll-stopping listings and branding effortlessly. It includes MRR, so master resale, and private label resell rights, so you can resell those digital products under your own brand and keep 100% of the profit. And it also includes a free video course. It's pretty concise, it's a bit shorter, but it's a training packed with optimization strategies and insider tips to scale your Etsy shop. And it includes custom Etsy roadmaps, which are step-by-step action plans for shop creation, optimization, and long-term scaling. And if you're ready for a complete hands-on transformation, my Etsy transformation course is your next step. This course is an extension of everything the Etsy Success Starter Kit, but it is entirely visual. It is a video course that walks you from A to Z on everything you need to scale your own shop to market leading success and 7 figures. Always the objective is to create listings that are going to lead the market. So we never want you to create another listing on Etsy that is not going to sell. So pre-sale students, they get extreme discounts on the final price. So if that link is down below, you get early access to course modules as they drop. This is the most personalized hands-on Etsy transformation experience that I've ever offered, and only 20 spots are available at this pre-sale rate. And you will get priority support if you do join this initial cohort. So here's what to do next. Go ahead and head to that subscription, grab my free 10 expert checklist, my free 10 expert tips to optimize your shop for maximum visibility and sales. That is entirely free, and that is a checklist that you can go ahead and grab, just crafted for seamless use, and you can go ahead and get started with that. Also, go to the Etsy Success Starter Kit link to check out my done-for-you resources to ideally transform your own shop as well, and lock in your pre-sale spot in the Etsy transformation course before the price increases. Again, thank you so much for watching to the end of this video and watching me ramble a bit, and I will see you in the next one.